so excited. Today I have Dr. Jessica Emery with me. She is a multi-passionate entrepreneur and like attracts like. The conversation that we were
Yes.
having before the podcast is going to be birthed into this conversation. But Jessica, introduce us. Tell us a little bit about who you are, your story, and I cannot wait to learn myself.
Hello, everybody. Yes, actually, absolutely. Like attracts like. We just got on this podcast prior to and started the conversation. We're like, we better hit record because there are just, I do believe on Instagram, it's so amazing through energetics, like how you do just align and meet the people that you're supposed to meet. But yes, I'm so happy to be here. And I love that we have connected. I'm a multi-passionate as well, a former dentist by degree. Um, I had started a branding and marketing agency next to my dental practice back when that literally pulled me into it full-time online through a quarantine dream that I had, a literal dream about Charleston, South Carolina. I was living in Chicago at the time. I had never been here, never, and I've been everywhere, but like I had never been to Little Charleston before. And I saw it so vividly in my mind. And usually you have a dream and it just goes away. You wake up, you remember it, you don't see it again. And the second night, like I dreamed it again vividly. So I told my husband, like, this is so crazy. I keep seeing, Charleston. He's like, Jess, get my iPad. And my husband is an avid golfer. He's grew up playing professionally. He's loves it. And he had been looking at Charleston on his iPad. He's like just dreaming about going to like some of the courses down here at some point. And I was like, that's 3. We need to get on a plane when like the world opens up and go check it out. And so Charleston was actually open. It was during that time. Chicago definitely was shut down, but planes had opened back up and South Carolina was, open for the most part. So we got on a plane and came down here, and every single little thing that happened from the moment we got here was like divine, like domino effect of yeses. Absolutely everything would be so different if everything hadn't happened. I assumed that we were here because, and interject if I'm like going on and on, but I had a teeth whitening bar as well. So in Chicago, I had a dental practice, a fee-for-service startup dental practice that was amazing. I was working under 24 hours a week. I had created it. It was uber successful. It was perfect. I was doing the dentistry I loved, cosmetic, and I had the time to work on my digital media agency. So I had another brick and mortar space for that called Dental Soiree. So I had Sugar Fix Dental Loft, Dental Soiree, and then I started a whitening bar called White Hot, Haute. So that was like a dry bar for women, but it was flights of white for whitening. So I started my own whitening product line, and that was amazing. So people had asked me to franchise that model. So when we got to Charleston and we found the only spot on King Street, the main street, and pulled in, and I opened the doors to this gorgeous 177 King building that was for rent. It was like magic. Like I just felt everything in my body. And I was like, oh, this is why we're here. I'm supposed to open another White Hot. So White Hot Chicago, White Hot Charleston. And I took a picture, a selfie of myself for my Instagram and put it up. And I said, White Hot Do, D-U-E-X, like White Hot Do, question mark. And within 5 minutes, I had a DM drop in from a dentist in Chicago, Dr. Brittany, whom I had never met before. She had been following me. She had been in some of my courses. Wasn't even aware. We'd never spoken. Literally looks just like me. She's like a soul sister, like unbelievable. And she said, oh my gosh, Sugar Fix is my dream practice. Are you relocating? And can we meet? And I was like, no, we are not. I am not going anywhere. Like my practice is perfect. It's plumbed. Like we're living in our dream house, like on the lake in Chicago. 3 children in schools. Like, no. Like it's all, no, I'm not going anywhere. She said, would you meet me for coffee? Like she was insistent. So I was like, absolutely. I would love to meet you in person. So all of these other things happened in Charleston, like meeting people. We were on someone's boat. Like it was almost like we were living here. It was just so incredible the way it played out. And I got back and I met Dr. Brittany. And when she walked through the front door, the minute she walked through the front door, I knew in my entire body was like, she's supposed to carry on the legacy here. And I'm supposed to move. It was like it was like that, which is even just to this day, in this moment, even telling the story, it's like, whoa. So I said to my husband, let's put our house on the market and just see what happens. Because this is right after quarantine, right? The world is still like upside down. And the first person that walked through the front door of our home said, full ask, 30-day close on the 18th. And the 18th, I have a tattoo, like that's my number. Like, that's my number. Like, oh my God, this is insanity. So we were like, and that like the signs were like popping, like we were like sign, all of it. My husband knows me very well. And he's like, Jess, I'm behind you 1,000%. So he took our 3 kids. They came down to Charleston. I stayed and did my, my 3 months. I got an apartment in Chicago, which was very difficult because I couldn't tell my team what was happening. Like, they had no idea because of attorneys. Like, I couldn't tell them. That was probably the most difficult time and point in my career and life because I was so close with them. But I lived in an apartment and then came down here to be with my family and moved into the online space 100%. So I went from working in businesses, in a business, to on one with the freedom, which is so amazing. Like, work from the beach, by the pool, like whenever and wherever I want. I could have never imagined, well, I say I could have never imagined this life. However, I do believe that the beginnings of the seeds that were planted were during my career. I always had that itch, if you will, to create something online. It wasn't ever to leave dentistry in my brick and mortar, but I wanted to create something in the online space, something that could be evergreen, right? Something that could work, I could serve and I could impact, but would, bring in money when you sleep. That is like the dream, right? The American dream too, like the impact, but making money to do it. And I went to a Funnel Hackers Live where I watched, so many people have a low ticket funnel making $1 million, like a jump rope funnel. And I was like, that's crazy. Like, if they can do that, I can do that too. And I remember sitting in the audience at that time thinking, oh my goodness, this is what, I would love to do. So when I did go back to my dental practice after that conference, I did start creating my first online membership for dentists at the time called Content Club. And it was something they had always asked me for because I did the branding and marketing. That was through my digital media agency. And so that was my first, like, stepping into that online space. Like, it was all happening. It was all unfolding. I just didn't really see it. It became so much bigger and moved me over. So.
Wow, Jessica, just hearing your story gave me so many goosebumps. Like, first, like, obviously multi-passionate at its finest, like business, brand, marketing, dentistry, like all of the things
Yes.
that like make you you. It's
Mm-hmm.
so fascinating. And of course, like that's what we attract here because what I was talking to you about before the podcast have even started is like when we go to outgrow who we've been, we need someone to replace us. And it's like soul driven entrepreneurs are being guided constantly. And so it's like,
Yes.
even though you didn't see it happening, your funnel was already being created. It just didn't look like you thought it would look. You didn't realize what it was going to be as it was happening, but you were being guided. And here you are today. Like, this woman, Brittany, has your business. She
Yes.
found you from one post in one place. Not to
Yes.
mention, your husband was like looking this place up, like
I
the
know.
golf course. Like, it's just like, it's such an
Yes.
incredible story. And I think oftentimes we overlook the dream. We
Mm-hmm.
overlook the message. We overlook being guided and we start to question what it is we want because we're stuck with where we are. And it's like, we're being asked to change, we're being asked to grow, and as we grow and evolve, like, we leave those parts and pieces of us behind. And what I love about you is you're really demonstrating how you can be multi-passionate and take those parts and pieces of you that you love and continue to weave them into the business that you're creating now as an online creator. And we can talk about like happy CEO. This woman is so happy, like, look at her glow, but that's coming from brick and mortar. Like, you had 3 businesses, right? And so you know that like what it took to create a business that is in person and be successful,
Yes.
to what does that look like for someone who wants to grow online as a female entrepreneur. And if we don't have happy, then what's the point? Like, I started
Right.
my business
Yes.
without knowing I was starting a business with one mantra: I just want to be happy. And I didn't know what happy meant. I just wanted to be happy, and I remember, like, in my mind telling my boyfriend at the time, "I just wanna be happy," and I had lost my dad to cancer, I was going to college to make him proud, and I wanted to drop out of college, and I was afraid of what he would think of me, and I
Uh,
had to go for it, but I was being guided, right? It was like either that or continue to be miserable, and my happiness led me to go against what he told me, what society told me, to create
mhm.
success. And in those moments, I was like, the one going, why would you leave your home? Like for you, example,
Yes,
dream home, kids are
yes,
in school, you have three businesses. What do you mean you're going to sell everything and move to
yes,
another state because of a
yes,
dream you had? Like,
yeah.
what?
Your
And I think that that's
education,
such a
yeah.
living, like, such a living, breathing example of like, it's okay that you invested all this time into dentistry. It's okay that you sold
Yes.
these business. It's okay. And now you're leaving it all behind to do something different because of a dream. So
Chapters.
what?
We have so many chapters. And it's like the next one's blank. What
Mm,
chapter are you going to write? To
yeah.
be to follow your happy. It's exactly it. It's like we get this one beautiful life and day, and what are you going to make of it? And so many people, their jobs, especially for me, what I have found in dentistry, as I back to our conversation as far as expansion, is that I have found that dentistry is their identity, and that was never my identity, and so trying to help them see past that, because they don't believe that it could ever be any other way. And they still question me in my decisions as far as, wait a minute, what? So wait, you're not still okay. So I know you're doing that, but you're not practicing 2 days a week. You're not, whatever. I said, no, like I have literally not even looked back, not for a second. That was a time. Everything has a time and a place in our lives, and we have to trust in our instinct. We have to trust in our guidance, like you said, that pull of where we're being called, and open up to that, because like you were saying, it's very easy to spin and freeze and question yourself. And it's like, if you can just let go of that and trust, it's like trust is the biggest thing. And my trust has always, my guidance and my trust has led my husband to say, okay, I mean, because that was a really big move for, the businesses were well over seven figure, like literally saying, okay, we draw the line, like, let's do it. And I wasn't afraid to start again, because I believed that I could and knew that I could. And I love
And
it.
like for anyone that's listening right now, like how did you know? Why did you believe? Like what is it for someone that's listening to this? Like how do I know when I can trust? How do I know when this is the next decision? Like what happened other than the dream, other than the number 18, other than like how did you know? What are you looking for? What did you have inside of you that you're like this is it?
Yeah. Oh goodness. Like, cause signs are everywhere for sure. Like I'm sure too, like if people's eyes are wide open to them, literally there are signs all around us, but for me, it's really like listening to my inner compass and guidance, and trusting that. I don't really know. It's just like this internal knowing, like when I know. For example, like right now, and we were talking about this before we got on this podcast too, like there's an internal tug of war going on with me right now where my intuition, and it's so crazy because this post as a sign kept popping up in front of me, which I sent to my assistant, which was like, change, I was showing you the picture, change fucking direction. Like, I hope you don't mind, I just swore. But what it says is all about what we're talking about. Like you see what you've never seen before. When you change yourself, you change everything around you because you're growing too big, blah, blah, blah. This is it. And so I know better. I know better. And that is a sign, and there are signs, but I keep going against it, and my body feels it, everything feels it. It's just like trust, and let go of that business. But sometimes when you build something that's so beautiful, so amazing, so whatever, I'm going against my own little words of wisdom here when I know, and I just have to, like I said, make that move. So I would say when your body doesn't feel, when you're not listening, like I'm not listening, for example, I things like your body may not feel well. Like you're off, right? It's kind of like an inner
I think
feeling.
I think you said something really beautiful that I've talked about since I found yoga, and it's your heart is the inner compass, and you
Yes.
know. And
Yes.
sometimes you stay busy to not look at what you know, and the signs they keep coming until they get loud enough that there's no other way to look,
Yes.
and there's no right time to close the door to this other business. It's when you're like, okay, I'm ready to be in alignment with what I already know to be true, and then you're no longer swimming upstream. Everything gets to just
Yes.
be so much more easeful, and sometimes we
Yes.
stay in the relationship, in the business, in the friendship, in the habit because we're not ready to grow. And then the
Yes.
moment that we're ready for the expansion of what's next, it's like, okay, I'm ready. Like, there's never more of a time now than when now is now. And when you're ready for the now, it's like your body knows. And sometimes we get sick, sometimes we injure
Yes.
ourselves, and sometimes we
Yes.
stay burnt out, whatever it may be. And so it's like the only way
Yeah.
for you to know is when you know, right?
Right. No, it's path of least resistance always. And that is something, as soon as you feel the stickiness or the resistance, that just reminded me that during my dental career, what gave me the opening, if you will, another sign when I was pushing against, I did have an injury in dental where I was wearing like big wedge heels, walking into a beautiful garden party in the water, like on this water's edge, just a neighbor of ours. And I took a divot with my heel and went down on my thumb and ended up tearing. So I was like thinking I had just sprained it or whatever, not telling my husband. So like, I'm a dentist. Okay. Without my hands, I can't work. I had a very small practice, small team, just me. Right. Fee for service, meaning, here in the States, it means I collected 100% up front. So it wasn't that I was on insurances and I had accounts receivable or anything, literally like what money came in, went out kind of thing. And I went into work the next day to go do a block on someone, like get them numb. And my thumb was like hanging and my thumb wouldn't work. And I was like, oh my God. So I had to go to the doctor and they're like, you're out of work for 3 months, 3 months. And I was like, I'm sorry. I don't think you understand. Like that's not going to work for me. I don't, you can't do that. And I remember getting my husband like the biggest bottle of his favorite alcohol, taking it home and having it on the counter. And he looked at me, he's like, you're out, right? Like cast, he's like, you're done, like for whatever. But we could not. So here was the thing, that injury that occurred, that is when I had started my online thing as well. I ended up creating an entire website for, so many things happened in that 3 months. Oh my goodness. But the universe like gave me that grace. I was fighting against it. And I was like, okay, let's just knock you out and give you that space. Like I learned the hard way, but yet it was a gift at the same time. So sometimes us getting sick or hurting ourselves ultimately in reflection was the gift because we were pushing. And it's like the biggest freaking knock on our head, right? Or our heart, like, sorry, you weren't listening. So here you go.
I
But
love
it's an
that so
opening.
much. It's like the gift,
Yeah.
right? Like the injury is the gift. And
Yeah.
whatever it is that you're experiencing is like what happened for me, I would say, is like the universe would tell me to rest and I wouldn't rest. Then my car would
Yeah.
break down. And then I would borrow my friend's car and that car would break down. And I was like, how many signs do I need that like it's time to rest and slow down? And sometimes it's just like, I'm here and I'm just going to get louder until you listen.
Yes.
And what you could create and what you could do in that 3 months is just incredible. And to just transition our conversation a tiny little bit from multi-passionate to CEO, what do you tell someone that's getting the sign that it's time to pivot, to change the niche, to go online, to change exactly what they're doing, to be the happy CEO? Like, what is your advice as someone who has been resisting and also listening, expanding and also pausing? And you're in that, dance between doing and taking action and then not taking action and looking at the signs, but like, I'm not ready yet. Like, what do you
Yeah.
tell your clients?
Oh my gosh. Well, I've done everything until probably like last year in my careers by myself, figuring it out. In dental school, we don't learn how to start a business, create a business. We don't learn about branding and marketing. We don't learn, you just get spit out, no pun intended, right? So growing that, doing that, and then even moving into the online space, learning how digital products, I mean, oh my gosh, right? The learning curve. What I would say to anybody, because if I could go back, here's the thing, as a quote unquote doctor, right? Like I didn't learn or know about females in this industry or coaches or mentors. Like I did not know. So here's another quick little story. When I got down here, my hairdresser here kept saying that I needed to meet one of her clients, like a client at the salon. And it didn't happen. It didn't have, we could not make it work. And so it was supposed to work. And then it didn't work that day for whatever reason. She had to cancel. And then we finally had our day we were supposed to get together. I was in the online space feeling like that little girl in Nemo, like hitting the glass of the fish tank, right? Like hitting the glass of my computer, like dentist, hear me, see me, like whatever. Meanwhile, they're working in people's mouths. Okay. Like, so they're not even online, let alone being on Instagram, right? Dentistry is still in circa 1960, unfortunately. So I was in this masculine, crazy ass place where I was literally like, my vibration was not good. I wanted to cancel because I knew she's a female coach, right? And I knew she would feel my energy, but I was like, I cannot cancel this because we have tried to make this happen 3 times and it hasn't happened. So I'm going. So we go, I meet her. She's amazing. We're having a conversation. I'm like, ugh. So we start drinking mimosas. And I'm like, oh, I'm just like going through this right now, like blah, blah. I was like, the launch just was not going. And she's like, can I just mirror you for a second? And let me tell you something, like when I mean the tears started to flow down my face, I'd like to say it was the mimosas that broke down my emotional wall, but I literally was like, and I had never had that experience. I had never been with a coach or with somebody. I've always done it hard against, like with myself. So that was the beginning. And then she introduced me to people in the online space, AFE, et cetera, et cetera. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is my entire world changed. And I went from that masculine energy into learning all about feminine energy. And it was so amazing. So what I would say is, oh my goodness, first and foremost, like, and I've always done personal development as well, but Tony Robbins, more masculine, right? All the masculine drivers, which I love. I think that there's a place for all of it. But I would find somebody that you relate to, someone that is where you want to be, like you with retreats, right? Like if I figured it out myself. I did workshops and retreats. I've been doing them for years, but I figured it out myself. You don't think of things like the cost, right? How to come up with the price to make sure that your costs are covered, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot of things that go into it. I would want to hire an expert, someone that knows what they're doing, like you. So if I were a woman like that wanted to do a thing, there is someone for that thing. Find them and lock arms with them, because it is the seat on the rocket ship. Like, and I wish I knew that. I wish I knew that back then, because it has taken me so long to get to where I am now, which is okay. And I'm grateful. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful to be where I am and know what I know now.
And what you said, like, that really resonated with me from the very beginning is like how you go through a school, you go through a training, you get a degree, and then you just get spit out. That happened in my yoga teacher training. Like, I had no idea how to run a business. And so there I was, like, hustling, doing all of the classes, trying. And then I realized that we weren't taught how to be yoga professionals and actually make a living doing it. And so there you are, like, you don't know how to make a website. You don't know how to brand yourself. You don't know how to come up with a product suite. You don't know how to actually make sure it's profitable. Then I was throwing spaghetti at the wall when I sold everything I owned to move to Costa Rica to try to lead retreats. I was paying thousands of dollars to lead these retreats. And so oh my gosh, if I just had someone from the beginning show me how to do it, I could have saved so many years of being a hustling yoga teacher. And I think that's what happens for us is when we learn how to do it innately as a woman, we want to teach people. And my first coach was very masculine, and it had to be structured and it had to be funnels. And we can't make babies without masculine and female energy. We need both. And you can't just be in alignment and create a business. Like, you need to have strategies and you need to be showing up. And even our mentor, how we met, like, she's very masculine in the way in which she does it, but she's also the embodiment of it. And as a yoga teacher and soulpreneur, I'm like, you have to be the embodiment of your work to attract what it is that's in your world, which is why you and I are sitting here today, even having this conversation. It's like,
Right.
because we attract the people that we are. And
Yes.
when we want to find a mentor, it's like, look for someone that is where you desire to grow to, so you don't have to just guess and check. And when the mentor comes, like we were talking about before, and
Yes.
sometimes that knowing is scary because you're like, oh my gosh, I've never invested this much. Oh my gosh,
Yes.
I really work with her. Then that
Yeah.
comes the limiting beliefs and the never done it before. I mean, when I first found my coach, I had never invested that much money other than in my yoga teacher training. And this was 3 times the amount of my yoga teacher training. And I'm like, what?
Yes. I know, right? It's the investing in yourself. It's huge. I mean, I've always invested in myself. And now even in my world, I understand. So I just put myself for the first time too in a high level, like high ticket level master mind. And I literally I was just like, ooh, it just felt, but it was expansive, right? I was like, I'm going to sit with it for a second. Usually like I'm a quick pull, and I sat with it and then I went back and jumped into it. I still tell to my husband to this day, I'm like, that was the best freaking, he'll be like doing QuickBooks. He's like, who is this? And I'm like, da-da-da. And that was the best freaking money that was ever spent. The women I met, the expansion that happened, the clarity, like, holy. I was like, I understand why the women that charge what they do, why it is what it is. And they attract the women, and for me, that was that high level, like the entrepreneur that it was actually a human design mastermind too. So it was like all our 5 lines. I've learned a lot this past year about human design and I'm obsessed with it.
Same.
So I think it's just, opening up to just new things, different things, like back to the expansion, trusting your instinct. If it feels in your body like it's a F yes, then you just do it. I always find a way. The money to me finds a way back, even tenfold, because time is money as well. So if you get that clarity early on by investing and having somebody, because let's also talk about how freaking lonely it is online. Very different for me. Brick and mortar, I was surrounded by my teams all the time. Leading, I loved it. Having a virtual team and being online by yourself, like I had to get a space for myself downtown, literally, and thank goodness I could afford to do so. Like in this, but like to be in the energy to get on the elevator with others, to say good morning and be with people, because even though I have this beautiful like office and space and home, I'm like, I cannot be, my creative just shuts down. I'm like, and this is my personality, right? I'd have to like move and be in other places, but I'm just like, I don't know. I just feel like you've got to invest on what will bring you joy, happiness, and being with somebody to listen to you instead of you as a female entrepreneur serving and impacting others all the time and leading, which is so amazing. Sometimes you've got stuff. It would be nice for you to have somebody that you can, in your pocket to talk to too. Help guide your thoughts when you start to spin out, right?
Exactly. And something that I always say on my podcast and in my lives, I'm like, please comment, engage, share, say hi, because like I started my business because I live in the jungles of Costa Rica and there isn't the same networking and connection that happens here. So if you are listening to this, be sure to screenshot it and share with us on Instagram what you're taking away, because it is lonely online. And that's why I love to have business besties and masterminds and people that I can connect with. So it isn't just this one-way conversation, but like I really encourage others to engage with me. And one of the things that I talk about in my programs too is like, if you want social media to be social, are you engaging with other accounts? Are you responding? Because some people are like, but nothing's happening. My Instagram isn't growing. And I'm like, are you engaging? No.
Yes.
Well, well, like it has to be a two-way street, because looking at Instagram as like your storefront, how are you greeting people that start following your community and in alignment with your mission? How are you writing to people when they're sharing on your posts and then they're responding to your stories? It's like, we want to have that same type of network. And also we want to be able to talk to people that are growing to where we grow. And I would say like my masterminds and my programs, like that's where I get to meet others and where I love others get to meet each other's inside of mine. It's like the networking and the growth. And then like the next time Jessica and her family come comes to Costa Rica, they can say, hey, Amber, where are you? Let's get together,
Yes.
and like, that's really what makes the online space is like, everyone listening has a story that what they did in COVID and what happened during COVID and
Yeah.
what happened after COVID. And so it's like, how are we going to let that moment in time really mark where we went from that story?
Mhm.
And now amplified is the social media and people going online and who we can meet and who we can work with. And like you said, the impact that we can have, because if you're not having impact, like for me, I found that the money's boring. It's like not
Of
the
course.
same. If
Yeah.
people aren't having results, it's like, well, then what's the point? Why not go and get a job?
Right, right. I have found, and I'm sure that there are the people out there that like to be like solopreneurs and work by themselves. I feel like you and I are in alignment completely on, I like my masterminds feed my soul. Like I love humans. That's my favorite thing is group, like being with other people. But yes, Instagram for sure, windows to the soul of your business. And I like my dental business because I wasn't on insurances. I grew it and scaled it, converted huge cases in the DMs on Instagram. And then I sold a dental practice on Instagram. So like that's the power of this platform. But the biggest part is, yes, it is not a post and ghost. It is a social platform. And so you have an opportunity energetically to show up and just, like I said, put everything in. And I think as entrepreneurs, at least for me, when I got into the space, I spun myself out very quickly thinking I needed to be on everywhere, right? YouTube, Pinterest, TikTok, like you name it, I did it all. And not that well because, I stuck to Instagram because it is my favorite, but I would say pick your platform of choice. Like Instagram is my baby too, like yours. I love it so much. It feeds my soul. So like, that's where I feel good. That's where I'm going to show up because it's going to be my true self, like pouring through. But yeah, authentically showing up as yourself and engaging would be everything. That's how we met. That's how all of my relationships, like all in for business, you bring in your soul line people. And this is the other thing. People, like, if you're thinking it's a saturated market, it's not. Like everyone has a unique fingerprint. Like there's enough for everyone. I say this, like, even when I was a dentist, there were 5 dentists outside my door that accepted insurance. What made me different? It was like my uniqueness, my authenticity, my branding and marketing, like show up fully embodied, like who you are. And then your people will just literally drop in.
Yes.
It's amazing.
That's just what I talk about all the time. It's like you're going to stand out by being who you are. And that's why multi-passionates have a gift. And the gift is like they have their hands in many different places and spaces at once. And the more that you bring your magic and you share your gifts, you will like attracts like, and you'll have a growing community. If you don't, I'm going to quote you on this, is you post and ghost. Like that is so powerful. Like don't post and ghost if you want to grow your community and only one platform. Otherwise you're going to get burnt out until you master one and one place that you absolutely love. Then you can go and repurpose. Thank you so much, Jessica. I think that we could talk for hours.
Yes, we could.
Keep going, and we definitely should on Instagram and keep the conversation going. But what to you does it mean to amplify your impact as a multi-passionate mama of 3 entrepreneur following her heart?
What does it mean to amplify? Oh my gosh, just probably just to, I know I just, heart, soul led, stepping in just to freaking impact the world to the max with the gifts that, if we're talking about me, we as a collective, I feel like are here with purpose, and to step into what that purpose is, what that dream is, fully embodied, as we had said, realizing that you can evolve and expand and change and pivot along the way. But just keep listening to your divine call, that intuition, right?
Yeah.
Just keep following that because it will never, ever, ever lead you astray. And so I do feel like we're here to impact as many humans like on earth as possible with the gifts that we have been, given. So
beautiful, Jessica. Can you share with the listeners what your Instagram is, since we know that's your platform of choice if they want to follow you, they want to come and find you and your mission and your story?
Of course, of course. So I run 4, can you believe it? So I like to say to everybody that if you are like, oh my gosh, this is hard, you can do it. You can do it. I have 2 for dental because but I'll give you my personal is Dr. Jessica Emery. That's my handle. So Dr. Jessica Emery is where I am most of the time. And then I have now launched into Happy CEO Club is the other handle. So Happy CEO Club. And I am now currently, like I said, expanding out of dentistry, out of the dental box and into female entrepreneurs. And like I said, helping them catalyze their dreams into cash flow and just living their best, lives. It's so good. It's so good. Thank you
So
so much
good.
for having me today. I
Thank
appreciate it.
you. And I will put you in the show notes, both of those Instagrams. And if you're listening, be sure to share this on Instagram, your biggest takeaway, and tag us both. Bye.
Thank you.